Hi guys, welcome to Palace to the Core. My name is Stephen Dawes. Don't forget to subscribe for more Crystal Palace news, views and reviews. And that was just a little montage of me at the game against West Ham. And well, first of all, if you haven't seen the game yet, do go and check it out and then come back and listen to what I've got to say about it. Now, first of all, I'm going to talk about the lineup, which was a little bit different from what we would expect, obviously, because of Jordan Ayew and Joachim Andersen leaving a little while before that. So we had Dean Henderson at the back, then we had Richards, Gahey and Chadi Rihad making his appearance there. Munoz, Wharton, Lerma and Mitchell in the middle, and then we had Edouard and Eze ahead of them, and Mateta in front of them. Interesting to have Edouard in there. And I'm gonna explain a little bit further on, but it was interesting that they put him in there. But anyway, that was the lineup. Chadi Rihad out there on the left, and I was interested to see how he would pan out, because obviously, you know, he's a new signing, and Oliver Glasner said that he was ready to play, he was ready to take part. So it was interesting to see how he would play. And before we go any further, I've also got a little bit of news about Joachim Andersen. He did an interview with the Dutch press after he left to go to Fulham, and was, shall we say, a little bit critical of Crystal Palace in some way. So I'm going to be talking about that at the end of this as well, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so when we started the game, and I felt that we took a little bit while to get into the game. West Ham had a couple of early chances which had me on the edge of my seat a little bit, I have to say. And one of the things that happened a couple of times actually was that they would cross the ball in to a person at the back post who was completely unmarked. We didn't have anyone marking them at the back post, and twice we almost got caught out with a back post header or something like that. Happened a couple of times, and that was a bit of a concern for me. But they had the early start of it, and then we started to improve, as we have done for the last couple of games. You know, we kind of a bit of a slow start to the game, but then we start to pick up a little bit, and I felt that there were moments when we were trying to play the ball around quite well. I felt that we were trying to trying to get things moving, trying to move forward. West Ham, of course, were very good at the best performance, but they played okay, and they were trying to stop us doing what we were doing, and I think they were actually doing quite a good job of it at some point. You know, there were periods of time when we had possession, but we weren't necessarily able to do a lot with it. But that was kind of exacerbated a little bit by the fact that Edouard for me didn't really work out there on the right hand side. You know, he didn't really do enough. You know, he was giving the ball away too many times, wasn't really trying to create stuff or anything like that, and it looked a little bit shaky for me out that side. And I was kind of hoping that Oliver Glasner would see that a little bit earlier and substitute him, but he didn't, unfortunately. But yeah, I just don't think he worked out there on that right hand side for me personally anyway. And but we had a couple of chances. We had a goal. Well, we had a shot from Eze that went just wide, and then a kind of an impromptu half volley that hit the post, or hit the corner of the post on the upright, and that was both done by Eze. So, you know, we had a couple of chances in that first half, and I felt that we could have, you know, if we'd have had better luck, I thought that we could have got one of those goals in, because we were creating chances, and we just weren't doing anything with them. We weren't putting them away, and I think some of that may be because you've got Mateta there and you've got Edouard, but they didn't. It just didn't seem to link up well enough for me. That was just my thought. I was on it. It just didn't seem to link up well enough. And yeah, we were getting the ball forward, but a lot of the time it was breaking down. And yeah, we'd get the ball back, and then we'd try a bit more, and then it would break down. So it was a bit disjointed at times for me when I was watching the game, and it was a little bit disappointing. There were things that we were trying to do which puzzled me as well, and one of those things was they kept trying to do a cross field ball from the back left across to the top right, and kind of a reverse to what Joachim Andersen usually does. He usually does back right to left. But they were kind of trying to do the opposite. But the problem was, sometimes, you know, you'd have Munoz up there who would try to get on the back of it and try and get on the end of it, couldn't do it for whatever reason. It was either too long or got picked up by a defender. But a couple of times we did it and there was no player there. There was no Palace player in that area, and they would just put the ball up there. And it surprised me a little bit as to why we were doing that. When, you know, was it just a blind hit? Was it just like, you know, as soon as you get the ball, pump it up to there? I don't know what the reason was for it, but a couple of times there wasn't a Palace player there, which surprised me a little bit. But anyway, that's kind of how the first half went along. That, you know, both sides had their chances. I would say we probably maybe edged the first half, but only just. I think it was a bit of an odd game, a bit disjointed and things like that. We didn't look like we were going to score a goal. You know, apart from the two Eze chances, we didn't really look like we were going to do much with the ball. Anyway, second half, and things carried on very much the same way. Unfortunately, West Ham did get their first goal, which was it was a difficult situation really, because I think when you look at the defending, our defending hasn't been good enough for these goals that we've conceded for the past two games. It just hasn't been good enough, and we've been you know, sometimes running back towards our own goal, and that's the problem when you're doing a high press. You've got to get back quick enough, and sometimes we just weren't. And certainly on one occasion we got you know, opened up, and they scored the goal, and it was just one of those things that, you know, we just didn't do enough to stop the ball going in. The second goal was a complete shambles. I mean, it was bouncing around the 12-yard box, going here to there to everywhere, and we just weren't able to clear it, and they managed to get it in the back of the net again. So both goals, I think, were preventable. I think they were preventable. I don't think, you know, I think there was things we could have done to stop both of those goals going in, which was a disappointing thing as well. And so that's kind of how the game went, and it was one of those games where every time we'd get the ball, it would go wrong, or we'd pass it wrong, or sometimes we'd look like we were making a good move and then it would break down. And it was a little bit frustrating, because, you know, I know how well we can play under Oliver Glasner. I know how well we can do things, how well we played last season, but it was a bit disappointing. However, there were a couple of things which shone out to me. First of all, I think Mateta isn't quite ready. You know, he was trying to run onto balls. He was a bit more of a target man in this game again. They were pumping the ball up, hoping that he would get on the end of it, or hoping that he would get a header on it. And it wasn't always working out for him. And I don't know whether he's tired again, or whether he's just not rested enough. I don't know what it is, but he just didn't seem to be on it in the game against West Ham. Shadi Rehad had a couple of good moments. He made a couple of good passes, and, you know, and made a couple of good defensive choices, but he looked nervous, should we say. You know, he looks like he was unsure. Whenever he got the ball, more often than not, he would pass it back to the goalkeeper, or he would pass a simple ball or things like that, which is fair enough. I think perhaps he's a little bit still getting into the swing of the Premier League and things like that. It's going to take him maybe a couple of days to get used to that kind of thing. But he looked a little bit out of his depth in that game. But I'm sure that he will improve, because I think Glasner has a lot of faith in him, and I think that he will improve. I felt that Wharton, to be honest with me, outside of Eze, was our star man. He was my man of the match. You know, he was playing some wonderful balls. Jefferson Lerma had a decent game. He played all right. I don't think he, you know, perhaps not the best he's ever played for us, but he certainly had a decent game. I felt that you know, that it was just a little bit too disjointed. And of course, you know, what we really needed, I think, was an Anderson, an Elise, and an Ayew. You know, that seemed to me to be the missing link. You know, with Ayew, you've got that person who you can give the ball to and it will stick, and you can hold it up, and he can tackle for it, and he can tussle for it, and he can make things happen. With Elise, you've got someone, instead of Edouard, you've got someone there who can get the ball, can run at defence, can, you know, put the crosses in and things like that. With Anderson, you had someone a bit more confidence at the back there, was able to deal with the situation a bit better. So you can see that we're missing those 3 players. Obviously, there's nothing we can do about it now. I'm hoping that they can improve. Kamada came on and again didn't have a fantastic game for me. Made a couple of good passes, but not really what I would expect from someone who you know, is supposed to be a really good player. I was quite impressed with Sarr actually. He came on, almost got a couple of chances to himself when he came on. He was very lively again, looking for the ball, asking for the ball, and I felt that he had quite a good time when he was on the pitch. I felt that he did quite well. So it wasn't all doom and gloom. I felt that we did, you know, we had good players in there. I think Eze played as well as he could. You know, every time he got the ball, he was being crowded out, so it was difficult for him. But I think he tried his best. But you can see, you know, the link up that Mateta had with Elise and Eze had with Elise. You can see where that was coming, where that was producing the good results and the good form. And I think, you know, without Elise there, you've got Eze, who hasn't really got someone who he can just telepathically pass the ball to. You know, he just knows where he is. And with Mateta, he hasn't got that supply that I think that he had with Elise, and also Eze in tandem working together to give him the ball. So I'm hoping that we can bring in some players who can help with that situation. Now obviously Lacroix is supposed to be still on, but we'll have to wait and see on that. That's still a bit up in the air, but he's a defender. I do think we need someone who's a bit more attack minded, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, one of our attacking options was Jeffrey Schlupp, who didn't have a bad game, but to bring on Jeffrey Schlupp, when you think, is that what we're doing? You know, to bring on an attacking player, we're bringing on Jeffrey Schlupp. But anyway, I'm going into a bit of a rant now. That was the game as I saw it, and it was disappointing. But I think that, you know, Oliver Glasner said that he's not making excuses for it. He said this isn't because of the transfer rumours and things like that. You know, he just said that, you know, he's not going to make excuses for the performance. The players who did interviews after the game said they just got to move forward with it and just, you know, go onwards and move forward and can carry on. And it's not the end of the world. It's the first 2 games. Things can definitely improve, and with the summer we've had with players not being around because of international duty, and, you know, coming back late and not having a full pre-season, you know, perhaps it will take us a few days, few games even, to get back on our feet and get back into those winning ways again. But anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Let me know down in the comment section what you think. Finally, I'm going to be talking. This is a long video now, I do apologise. Finally, I'm going to be talking now about Anderson. Now, as you all know, we were a little bit surprised why he went to Fulham, and I can understand that. You know, there was a bit of a, you know, why is he going to Fulham type of thing. Although Fulham have been buying some decent players, so maybe they're, you know, maybe he was sold on a project that they're trying to push forward, trying to push themselves up the table. Anyway, he was talking to a Danish news site after he's moved to Fulham, and he said something quite interesting, and I'm going to pop it up on the screen so you can read it as well. And this is what he had to say. He said, "I was a little disappointed that Palace could not offer me such a deal in relation to length. It was a really cold and cynical change from Palace, so that they could also earn the last coins from me, but that's how it is. It's business from Palace side." That's a bit of a weird outlook for me. The fact that they, you know, perhaps he wanted a better contract, perhaps he wanted a longer contract. According to Alan Nixon, he's supposedly going to be earning double what he was earning at Crystal Palace at Fulham. So he was on £75,000 a week at Crystal Palace. So he's supposed to be earning double that with Fulham, and he's on a 5-year deal, taking him to 33. So if you look at it that way, I mean, do you really want to be spending that kind of money for that length of time for someone who's eventually going to be 33? You're not necessarily going to get anything back from that. Now, whether we should have sold him now, I don't know. I mean, obviously, it looks like there was a bit of an issue with his contract. He wanted a longer contract. Doesn't necessarily say he wanted more money, but he just said he was disappointed they didn't have the same length of contract. So maybe they weren't going to offer him a 5-year deal. Maybe they were going to offer him something shorter than that. But it looks as though he wasn't necessarily ready to leave. You know, he might have been happy to stay if he was offered a contract that he felt he was worth. Now, obviously, this decision from Crystal Palace to sell him really does depend on whether we get someone in. If we get Lacroix or whoever it might be, it really does depend on that. If we've sold Anderson and we can't get someone in to replace him, then it's not a very good bit of business, because we've got £30 million for him and we haven't done anything to get somebody in. If we manage to get somebody in like Lacroix, who is younger and perhaps a little bit quicker, then it will be a good bit of business, because we'll have £30 million plus a player who's younger and perhaps slightly better. So it really does depend on how this transfer window finishes up. But it was interesting, that little quote from him. Let me know down in the comment section what you think about that. It's a little bit weird. Maybe it's a little bit sour grapes that perhaps he wanted to stay and we just wanted to cash in on him. But anyway, let me know what you think down in the comment section, and that's it from me. I will see you next time.